I need to tell you about a time when I watched a project fall completely apart and I saw it coming from a mile away, but I couldn't stop it. This is one of those stories that keeps me awake at night, not because it failed, but because it was so preventable. And if you're managing projects in professional services right now, this might happen to you too. About 7 or 8 years ago, I got brought into a project, not as a project manager, but as a consultant doing the actual delivery. The PM was another consultant named, well, let's just call him Charlie. And to be fair, I've been Charlie myself on other projects too. The consultancy had this beautiful, polished implementation methodology. Everything looked tight, professional, and the kind of deck that makes clients smile and nod. During the kickoff presentation, there was a whole section on risks, and the usual suspects were there: scope creep, resource availability, technical integration challenges. You know, the templated risks you see on most project plans. Here's what wasn't on the list. What happens if a key stakeholder leaves? That should have been risk number one, because the same week as our kickoff call, literally the same week, our client project sponsor left the company. Gone. No transition plan, no handover, just gone. And here's the thing that still haunts me. I remember wondering if the kickoff was the last meeting he attended before he left, whether he was fired or quit. We never actually found out, and actually it's not relevant. Now at this point, we should have been ringing every alarm bell that we had. We should have demanded an emergency meeting with the client's leadership. We should have paused the project, but as so often happens, we didn't. Charlie, the project manager, reached out to the client's project manager, and let's just call him Rudy. And Rudy said exactly what most stressed middle managers would say: don't worry, the project won't be impacted. Keep moving forward as planned. Charlie then said, well, who's going to be the new project sponsor? And Rudy said, oh, we're still working on it. But in the meantime, he would act as a project sponsor. Now that raised 3 massive red flags, but we drove right past all of them. The first red flag was he wasn't really empowered to be the project sponsor. He was a middle manager, and project sponsors need authority. They need budget authority, and they need decision-making authority. And Rudy had neither. Number 2, we soon discovered he was very skeptical about the project. He wasn't obviously involved in the project selection or the decision-making process. So in every meeting, you could feel it. He questioned everything, and not in a healthy, let's make it better way, but in the, I don't think this should exist way. And the third thing was when he said in the meantime, it was too vague, because we thought in the meantime meant 1 or 2 weeks, a month maximum, but it didn't. There was never a new project sponsor, just Rudy undermining every step of the way. I started dreading client sessions because Rudy had this passive-aggressive communication style that just, well, poisoned everything. He agreed as to something in meetings and then basically undermined everything immediately afterwards, and then even questioning the entire business case for the project. I knew this because he accidentally forwarded me one of those an email saying that. There it was in black and white. This isn't what we need. And he was our point of escalation. The worst thing is the person we were supposed to go to when things went wrong was the thing that was going wrong. By the time that Charlie convinced our leadership to go directly to the client's executives, bypassing Rudy, it was just too late. In fact, the client used that meeting to tell us that they decided to cancel the project and said, well, it's not really good for our business. And here's the brutal truth. In a way, they were right. It wasn't a good fit, not because of the solution, but because we lost our internal champion and we never recovered. This wasn't the first time I'd seen this happen. I've seen projects derail when, for example, the CFO left or the COO moved on to a competitor, even when a project manager on the client side just gets reassigned. And I often see this with clients. The risk is not documented up front. There is no mitigation plan and risks are not monitored. There's this just kind of hope it will not happen kind of attitude. Remember, people buy from people, not companies. Your project exists because somebody chose to work with you. And if that person leaves, your project is suddenly vulnerable. Full stop. Point number 2 is that risk management isn't just a kickoff activity. It's a project-long discipline. That risk register you just can't sit there gathering dust. It needs to be a living, breathing document that you actually use. And I'm afraid I've seen so many projects where the only time the risk register is even looked at is during the kickoff, and then never again. And 3, in specifically to this case, the words "in the meantime" is actually a warning sign. When the client says "in the meantime" about critical roles or decisions, that's your cue to escalate immediately, not in 2 weeks, but when it becomes a real problem, and that's now. There's a David Ogilvy quote that one of our affiliates shared with me, and that is, you need to be prepared to lose all of your clients over time. When I first heard it, I thought, well, that's a bit cynical, but it's not. It's actually realistic. Client churn does happen, and key stakeholders from your clients do leave, and projects do end. The question isn't if it will happen. The question is, are you prepared when it does? Look, if you're a COO, a delivery director, or a managing partner running a complex set of projects, right now, I want you to do something for me. Pull up your active list of projects and look at the stakeholder lists and ask yourself, who is our internal champion? If they left tomorrow, do we have any relationships with anyone else? And is that person's departure on our risk register? And finally, do we have a mitigation plan? Because I can almost guarantee, based on the hundreds of projects I've seen and managed, that for most of you, the answer to those questions will be no. Not just one of those questions, all of those questions. Look, I get it. You're busy. You're juggling 15 things, and adding stakeholder departure risk analysis to your already overflowing plate seems impossible. But here's what I know is that the cost of not doing this is way higher. If you want to avoid a situation like this, we do actually have a bunch of project management templates that you can download absolutely free of charge from hindsightsolutions.com. Things, for example, like stakeholder maps, stakeholder list, RACI diagrams, and RAID logs. Maybe you've already got some, but we already have a full list of templates, those and many, many more, which you can download from hindsightsolutions.com. So going back to that project failure didn't just cost our firm revenue. It damaged relationships. It hurt team morale. It reinforced every doubt that client had about working with external consultants. And it was all preventable. This is why what we do at Highly Solutions. We've lived through these failures. We've been Charlie, the PM who doesn't escalate fast enough. We've been the consultant watching the train wreck in slow motion. And we've built our whole project management framework around making sure it doesn't happen to you. If you want to talk to project managers who've actually been in the trenches, who've made these mistakes so you don't have to, go to hindsightsolutions.com. Because the next confession, I'd rather it not be yours. If you like this video, please like and comment, and please do subscribe to our channel. Thank you.